All right, let's look at the product rule for taking the derivative when we have two functions that are multiplied by each other. So what we're looking for here is the derivative with respect to x of f of x times g of x. And you'll recall that the product rule tells us that that is, we keep the first function, that is f of x, and we multiply by the derivative of the second, and then we add the the second function times the derivative of the first. Okay, so very common mistake is for people to try to just do f prime of x times g prime of x. That is not going to work. Do not do this. Okay, you have to remember the product rule. When we have two things multiplied together and we're taking their derivative, we can always use the product rule. Right? In fact, it doesn't even just have to be two things multiplied together. If we had three things multiplied together, we're just going, so if we had f of x times g of x times h of x, we just need to take the derivative of one at a time, and so it really doesn't matter. We could say we're going to keep the first two and do the derivative of the third one plus then we keep the first one and do the derivative of the second one and keep the third one, and plus finally we need to take the derivative of the first one and keep the other two. Okay, so as long as we do all the combinations, sorry, I ran out of room there, oops. As long as we do all of the combinations, we can do as many things multiplied together as we want to. We just take the derivative of one of them and keep the other one the same, the other ones the same, and we add up all of those results. Okay, so let's just look at a couple of examples of how these work. Now, for this one, actually I'm going to erase here. We have f of x equals 3x minus 2x squared times 5 plus 4x. Now, this is actually pretty easy to go ahead and multiply out. We could just go ahead and take this function and do the FOIL here, and we would see that that's 15x plus 12x squared minus 10x squared is going to be plus 2x squared, and then minus 8x cubed. Okay, so we could go ahead and multiply that out, and then we know that we could just do f prime of x equals derivative of 15x is just 15, derivative of 2x squared would be 4x, and derivative of negative 8x cubed is negative 24x squared. Okay, so we could just multiply this one out and not even have to worry about the product rule. But the reason we're starting here is this way we can see that the product rule actually works for us. So the other way we could do this is we could say f prime of x, using our product rule, we're going to keep the first function, so that's 3x minus 2x squared, and we're going to multiply that times the derivative of the second function. The derivative of 5 plus 4x, of course, is just 4. And then we can say plus, and this time we keep the second function, which is 5 plus 4x, and we multiply that by the derivative of the first function. Derivative of 3x is 3. Derivative of negative 2x squared is negative 4x. Okay. And if we go ahead and simplify this down, we can see that if we distribute that 4, we get 12x minus 8x squared there. And then if we do the FOIL over here, we get 15 minus 20x plus 12x is minus 8x. And then positive 4x times negative 4x is negative 16x squared. And we can see that when we combine our like terms, the only constant term I have is 15. I have 12x minus 8x, which is going to give me, so I've already dealt with the 15, so then I say 12x minus 8x gives me plus 4x. And then I see minus 8x squared and minus 16x squared gives me minus 24x squared. So in this case, it's really up to you how you do this. You can multiply first and then take the derivative, or you can use the product rule and you'll get the same derivative if you just simplify things down. Now, if we look at something like this function where f of x is 3x squared times the sine of x, we really can't do any multiplication before this. We just have to jump right into doing the product rule. We have no other option here. So I'm just going to keep the first function, which is 3x squared, and I'm going to multiply by the derivative of sine, which is cosine of x. And then I'm going to keep sine, and I'm going to keep the sine of x, and I'm going to multiply by the derivative of 3x squared, which is just 6x. And really there's not a lot we can do to simplify that, except we do usually keep this 6x up here in front of the sine x. And there we have our derivative. Pretty simple, as long as you remember to use the product rule. As long as you remember, you can't just say 6x times cosine x, because that's just not correct. We have to use the product rule.